Warning: the following video contains real stories of organized crime. It contains graphic descriptions and mature language. The views and opinions expressed within do not necessarily represent the views and opinions held by Chronicles or its affiliates. Viewer discretion is advised.
This episode will profile the historical birth and journey of the Arizona Mexican Mafia. Street gangs of Mexican descent have existed in the Southwest for well over a century. The first United States prison gang came into existence in 1957 at DVI, a youth facility in Tracy, California, where a group of teenagers established the Mexican Mafia. Today, when people hear Mexican Mafia, the typical cast of characters and attached stories pertain to the California EME. Although the Mexican Mafia's influence has touched upon the Mexican prison community in the state of Arizona, the Grand Canyon state is a completely unique cast of players, set of circumstances, and long-term history associated with its Mexican gang members. The common characteristics of United States street gangs of Mexican origin in the Southwest are exhibited in the states of Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, and Nevada. The Mexican flavor, complete with their own way of talking and interacting, has also touched Washington, Oregon, and states such as Kansas, Oklahoma, Utah, and Idaho, just to name a few in this region. Mix in the never-ending south of the border ingredients and you have a gang culture that continues to evolve to this day. From the 1970s and 80s inside the Arizona prison system, there was a prison gang in existence known as La Familia, which has no relation or connection to the California's Nuestra Familia. Arizona's La Familia was an influential gang that controlled the illegal activities on the prison yards during that period. In late 1979, an inmate by the name of Pete Moreno, also known as Pete Boy, entered the ADC, the abbreviation used for the Arizona Department of Corrections. Pete Boy was a made member of the California Mexican Mafia, La EME, and was arrested for murder in Maricopa County, convicted and sentenced to life in 1980. Many of the Arizona inmates were already familiar with an older Mexican Mafia member who predated Pete Boy by the name of Alvin Sanchez, also known as Manny from Temple. Pete Boy became friendly with members of La Familia who agreed with the idea of using the California Mexican Mafia template and formed an autonomous Arizona version. These prison convicts agreed to replace the name La Familia and refer to themselves as the Mexican Mafia. Because they were autonomous, answering only to the Arizona members and founders, they designed their own unique patch or symbol to be exclusively tattooed on the made members. The official Arizona tattoo consisted of two block letter M's for Mexican Mafia with a saber-toothed skull floating above and bat wings protruding from each side of the skull. Between the double M's there was a black rose. Sometime in the early 80s, after a few years of existence, a conflict arose between two members over the application of a Mexican Mafia regla, a rule, against admitting one's membership. David Fierro was charged with undertaking a Mexican Mafia-related homicide on behalf of the organization. David denied being a member and he subpoenaed a validated carnal to refute the government's allegation by testifying David was not a made member. This courtroom tactic infuriated the made member because his testimony would require violating the gang's code of silence. David felt there should be an exception to the rule when a fellow member is on trial for murder, and such testimony could assist in his defense. This created internal dissension between carnales who agreed and disagreed with the request to have a fellow made man divulge his prison gang status in open court. Instead of agreeing on a solution, this polarizing issue led directly to a split within the Arizona Mexican Mafia, with members literally taking sides and becoming enemies. For classification and identification purposes, the prison administration referred to the two rival groups as the Old Mexican Mafia and the New Mexican Mafia, a label the two factions themselves adopted. The New Mexican Mafia members created their unique identifier or patch and a tattoo their members would wear. It consisted of a sun with 26 flames, 13 displayed in one direction, 13 in an opposite path. On the inside of the flames there was two M's crossing into swords at the bottom, with a saber-toothed skull floating above, and in between the two M's There was an area designated for a black rose to be earned by killing a member of the old Mexican Mafia. Later, it was determined the black rose could be earned also by killing a fellow new Mexican Mafia member who was in bad standing. By 1984, the new Mexican Mafia emerged as the predominant faction, enjoying dominion over the prison yards, and they became the victors of this factional struggle. As with any prison gang rivalry, gang politics and propaganda served a purpose, and members of the new Mexican Mafia developed their narrative. Arizona convicts entering the prison system were given accounts of how the old EME exploited their own raza, their race, stole from them, raped them, etc. It was essentially the same type of narrative and rhetoric used by the Nuestra Familia in California to win supporters against the Mexican Mafia from Califas, California. The propaganda was intended to perpetuate and instill hatred into all who came into the system. The derisive moniker given to the old Mexican Mafia members was Víbora, Spanish for snake. The success of this campaign produced disproportionate numbers of the new EME, whereas the old EME's recruitment pool had essentially dried up. By the early 1990s, the only carnales walking the Arizona prison yards were members of the new EME. The word on every yard was to move on any Víbora should they be released to the general population. Throughout the 90s, the old EME was no longer a factor. Only 6 actual members remained who were kept in segregated status, locked down, and out of the picture. In the latter months of 1999 through early 2000, Mexican nationals, also referred to as paisas, became a political issue in the Arizona prison system. Paisas had previously associated with Chicanos or Mexican American inmates, and collectively they fell under the umbrella of La Raza, the Mexican race. This group was led by the members of the new EME. That is until the Paisas formed their own prison gang and called themselves the Border Brothers, or BBs. The Border Brothers' identifying patch or tattoo was a sun with the Aztec rendition of a jaguar's head on the inside. In the beginning of this movement, Paisas were told they could not wear this BB patch because the only recognized clique was the EME, previously known as the new Mexican Mafia. Not to be denied, the Paisas began to operate covertly, recruiting new members and placing the tattoo in places not easily detected as their numbers increased. In time, they became brazen and began to openly flaunt their numbers and members. The EME placed a green light on anyone confirmed to be a Border Brother member, and the rivalry was officially launched. During this period of time, other members of the California EME entered the Arizona Department of Corrections on the open yards. Jaime Tanaco, also known as Payaso, was a resident throughout the 90s. George Carbajal, known as Chapulín from San Pedro, and Gilbert Juarez, aka Big Bunky from Sangra, also joined Payaso and Pete Boy when the conflict was in effect. They began to spread their brand of propaganda to the California Mexican inmate population, labeling the new Arizona EME as an enemy of the California EME. In the Arizona prison system, California EME members and associates backed the Border Brothers against the Arizona new EME, which led to the Arizona versus Califas war. This brought about much confusion because many California inmates inside the Arizona prison system had previously stood with Arizona inmates, and there were many long-standing friendships. Many members of the new Arizona EME were also from California. With tensions and hostilities escalating, the prison administration began to separate Mexican inmates by placing those born in Mexico or California in one category and assigning them their own yards. This generated conflict between the California inmates and BB Paisas faction, pitted against other California and Paisa inmates who were sympathizers and loyal to Arizona. Getting a handle on this mess would be the task at hand inside the Arizona Department of Corrections, the DOC. This concludes the early years of this episode on the Arizona Mexican Mafia. I will identify myself in the next profile, which will continue with their growth during my years associated with them in the Arizona Department of Corrections. I will share detailed accounts of how this prison gang arrived at its current state and their activities in the various facilities throughout the Arizona prison system.